Good morning, everybody. So for today's activity, we're going to be wrapping up our discussion about the colonial regions by comparing the three different regions, New England, Middle, and Southern colonies. So to complete this activity, you'll notice on the assignment that there is a PDF at the top, a short one-page reading section about each of those three different colonies. And at the bottom is the attachment where you will be taking notes. So if I open that assignment, it's going to look like this. Okay, so we have a column for New England, a column for Middle, and a column for Southern. Now don't worry about writing your name or class period because that information is going to be up at the top for you automatically. So if I go back to the assignment itself, it's fairly simple. You have two options. You can either read directly from the Canvas page, or in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a pop-out. So I suggest that you use the pop-out. And what I'm going to do, and this is my other suggestion, as I've said in previous videos, I'm going to create two windows, one that has my reading and the other that's going to have my assignment. So here's my assignment here, and I'm going to pull it out to the side over here. Let me get back to my PDF. Okay. So for each of these colonial regions, you're going to be looking at the colonies that were in those regions, the land, and what they mean by land is what were the characteristics of the land? What was the soil like? That sort of thing. That's what they mean by land, like the actual characteristics of the land. And let me zoom in just a little bit here. The climate, was it rainy, wet climate? Was it warm, sunny climate? That's what they mean by climate. The economy would be how people made their money and the diversity of people, and then any other interesting details. So let me give you one example. I'm going to look at the New England colonies, and it says the New England colonies were a collection, and if I need to, let me just zoom in a little bit here so that I can read. So again, I'm using my tools down at the bottom. Perfect. So I'm looking at the New England colonies, and it says the New England colonies were a collection of 4 colonies in the American Northeast: Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. So in the colonies section, I'm going to write those names. So if I just double click, I can type Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. Now, if your text is too big, one thing that you can do is highlight all of the text and then go to the size and make it a bit smaller so that it all fits in the box. Okay, so now land. And it says, New England lacked the diversity of other regions as most settlers shared certain characteristics. Most were white, English, and worshipped the Puritan faith. So it doesn't go directly into land. We need to now move down to the diversity of people. So it says New England lacked the diversity, so it wasn't very diverse, of the other regions as most settlers shared certain characteristics. So I'm going to put that here. Oops. So it says that they were white, English, Puritans. Okay. Families in New England were usually large, as children were expected to work on the family farm. Life expectancy in New England was the longest of any region. Clean water and cold winters kept diseases at bay, while the strong family unit kept people together. So there is some information about both the land and the climate. So I'm going to put clean water up here. And then for climate, I'm going to put cold winters. while the strong family unit kept people together. So I'm right here. Because of this, the idea of grandparents started in New England. That's an interesting detail to me. I'm going to put in quotes, grandparents started in New England. Land in New England, however, was the poorest. It was stony, thin, and was unable to support large-scale farms. So I can add to my land. Reading it again, it says land was stony, thin, and unable to support large scale farms. Okay, and again, I want to go to my font size and make it small enough to fit inside the box. Okay. Families typically grew what was needed. However, the many rivers provided easy access to fresh fish and water power to propel sawmills. So where it says land, I also want to add that there were many rivers. Okay. The abundance of trees led to New England specializing in shipbuilding, and the many good harbors allowed for a prosperous trade industry. So there's information about the economy, how the people made their money. So I'm going to add that they fished. Fishing. What else? It said sawmills and trees allowed New England to specialize in shipbuilding. And again, I can't read what it says, so I'm going to make my font smaller. And I'm going to have to continue adding, so I made it small enough to add more information. Prosperous, meaning they had a really good trade industry. Okay. And again, still too big, so I'm just going to go one size smaller. Perfect. Okay. Boston, Providence, and Hartford all became major cities in the North. Most New Englanders lived common spaces that were shared. Since the people had so much in common, places like church, school, or town halls became popular places to share important news. I also find that to be an interesting fact, that they had common spaces. And one more interesting fact that I found was up here at the top, where it says that families were large, so children could work on the farm. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight all of that. Whoops. So Command A, and then I'm going to make, again, my font small enough and add bullet points, just like that. Okay. Okay. So for your other interesting details, please try to find 3 interesting details about your colony. So again, here's our first example, and you'll continue by reading the southern colonies and the middle colonies. So when you need to make it bigger, you can use this down at the bottom, bigger and smaller. And when you need to make your text bigger over here, use your presets that are next to the magnifying glass. Okay. And so once your assignment is done, so once you've completed each of the columns, be sure to submit through Canvas, and we'll be ready for the next activity next week.